Why is this arch 7 stories tall? I'm serious, look at this. I'm standing inside a residential building right now. This hall in the middle is taller than most buildings in Europe. Is it true that they built this arch so big because they needed to drag a giant statue of Stalin through it? Today I'm taking you inside the craziest arches in the world, from Paris to Moscow. But before we go and see insane ones, let me ask you something. Do you actually know why arches exist? Because I didn't. I thought architects just liked the shape. Turns out arches were invented because people ran out of food. Around 3000 years ago in Egypt, builders couldn't find long enough beams to span a doorway. So somebody figured out that if you curve the stones, the weight distributes differently and you don't need a beam at all. Romans took that idea and went absolutely crazy with it. Aqueducts, bridges, Colosseum. Every time Rome conquered somewhere new, boom, arches everywhere. It was basically their signature move. Fast forward to today, and arches are mostly decorative. You see them in apartment buildings, courtyards, shopping centers. They're just doors with a fancy top. When you hear the word arch, you probably think of this one, the Arc de Triomphe. Okay, let's fly to Paris then. Napoleon ordered it to build in 1806 after winning the Battle of Austerlitz. 50 meters tall, names of 128 battles carved into the walls, 860 military commanders listed inside. Took 30 years to finish because Napoleon kept losing power and people kept stopping construction. It's basically Napoleon saying, "Look how great I am," in stone form. Classic move. Okay, that trip was the worst idea of my life. I remembered we already have the same one in Moscow. But here's most people don't know. We have our own triumphal arch in Moscow. This one built to celebrate Russia's victory over Napoleon. So imagine being Napoleon. You build the biggest arch in the world to celebrate yourself, and then the country that beat you builds their own arch specifically to remind everyone that you lost. It's 28 meters tall. Napoleon was 168 meters, so this arch is roughly 16 Napoleons stacked on top of each other, which I think was the point. But honestly, some Russians don't even notice it anymore. You see it from your car while stuck in traffic on the way to work, listening to the radio talk about taxes and more traffic. That's the reality of living next to a monument. It becomes invisible. This is Zemlyanoy Wall Building 48, and this is the arch I've been thinking about since I was a kid. Look at it! 20 meters tall, almost 7 stories of pure empty space cut through the middle of residential building. People live on both sides of this and above it. There are actual apartments directly over this gap. The building was designed in the 1930s by an architect named Alexander Khryakov. This same guy later won a Stalin Prize for helping design the main building of Moscow State University. That massive skyscraper on Sparrow Hills, so he wasn't messing around. Now where it gets interesting. The legend says this arch was built so enormous because the Soviet government planned to install a giant statue of Stalin in the courtyard behind it, and the only way to deliver a statue that massive was through the building itself, so they made the arch tall enough to fit in. Is it true? Probably not. The real reason is simpler but actually kind of fascinating. In the 1930s, Soviet architects had a problem. They were building these tall, dense residential blocks close together, and the streets started feeling like tunnels. Dark, narrow, suffocating. So architects started adding massive arches to break up the wall of concrete, to create an illusion of openness and space. It wasn't about Stalin's ego, it was about making people feel less trapped. Which, when you think about it, is kinda ironic for the Soviet Union. By the way, Andrei Sakharov lived here, the physicist who helped create the Soviet hydrogen bomb and then became the country's most famous dissident. So this arch has seen some history walk through it. Today, 3-bedroom apartment here costs approximately 37 million rubles, which is around $450,000. Oh my god, for this babushka apartment, which is just 75 square meters, so it's 400 square feet. Apparently this apartment has never seen a renovation. So small kitchen, no closets, 75 meters. Okay, let's compare it for instance with Miami. What here on the coast you can find with this price range? For instance, this apartment, it's 100 meters, so 1100 square feet, so 30 meters bigger, a little bit cheaper, has better renovation. It's a condo apartment, so you got your own gym, swimming pool, you got sea view. So yeah, apparently in Russia I will never buy apartment for myself because these prices are just crazy. So again, $460,000 for a building from 1934 with a hole in the middle you could fly helicopter through. Okay, you thought that was big. Someone in modern Moscow looked at Zemlyanoy Wall Arch and said, "Hold my vodka." This is the residential building on Mosfilmovskaya Street, built in 2014, and the arch here is, I mean, look at this. The apartments above this arch start at about 70 meters up. Below that, just air, just emptiness. People are living in apartments that are literally floating above nothing. If you're afraid of heights and live here, congratulations! You get free exposure therapy every time you look out the window. The building goes from 2 stories on one side to 22 stories on the other. 644 apartments total. And right in the middle, this massive void. My cameraman thinks they only put apartments up there for people who passed an interstellar audition. Because honestly, living that high above an empty space, you're basically closer to the stars than to the ground. But when you walk through to the other side, it's just a normal courtyard. Kids playing, cars parked, somebody's grandma walking her dog. That's what I love about Moscow. The building looks like it was designed by someone playing SimCity with cheat codes, but inside it's just regular Russian life. If you wanna live here and you think it's gonna be cheaper than the last historical building, you are insanely wrong. So, 3-bedroom apartment here that has okay renovation will cost you 63 million rubles, which is $770,000. Are you kidding me, man? Okay, again, let's compare it to New York City. I found this apartment, again a little bit cheaper and nearly twice as bigger than Moscow apartment. Oh man, I ain't know what's going on with prices on Moscow apartments. Again, I will never ever be able to buy something for me here. This one is my favorite because it's the most honest one. This is the Millennium building on Velozavodskaya Street, built in 1936 by an architect Ignatiy Milenius, the same guy who co-designed the famous Narkomfin building, which is basically Bible of Soviet constructivist architecture. 7-story arch, 72 apartments, ceilings are 3.2 meters, that's luxury by any standard. And the arch, completely non-functional. It serves no engineering purpose. It doesn't lead anywhere special. Courtyard behind it is just a courtyard. Milenius built it because he thought it looked beautiful. That's it. Pure aesthetics. During Soviet holidays, they used to hang giant portraits of Lenin and Stalin inside the arch opening. Just imagine that. A 7-story face staring at you every time you came home from work. This building isn't protected as an architectural monument. Nobody has given it any official status. It's just listed as a building. So what about prices on this apartment building? And thanks God I can't show you the prices because building is being renovated right now. So there are no lots available. But here's how inside this building looks like. Yeah, kinda old, outdated, apparently it really needed this renovation. So write your comments in which apartment building I reviewed today you would like to live. Here's the thing, these giant arches get all the attention. The ones on architectural blogs and walking tours, but the arches I actually care about are these ones. The small ones, the ordinary ones. Every old Moscow building has one. A simple curved passage from the street into the courtyard. And for me, every single one of them is a portal. You step through and suddenly the noise of the avenue disappears. You are in a courtyard where grandmothers are sitting on benches, judging everyone who walks past, where somebody's cat is sunbathing on a windowsill. In the 1990s, under arches like this, rock bands rehearsed. Poets read their stuff to strangers. Street artists painted walls that would be painted over by morning. If you stop and actually look at the peeling paint and the old green walls and the wiring that probably hasn't been updated since Brezhnev, that's the real Moscow, not the Moscow from social media. That one that actually lives. and breathes. Behind one arch, a monument to beating Napoleon. Behind another, a hallway that smells like borscht and somebody's grandmother's perfume. Arches started as a solution to not having enough food. 3,000 years later in Moscow, they became time capsules. Every arch in this city connects two worlds, the street and the courtyard, the public face and the private life. Under one arch, somebody proposed. Under another, somebody got rejected. Under a third, someone was just eating kebab alone at midnight, and honestly, that guy was the happiest of all three. In Moscow, even the concrete breathes history, and the arches just remind you that every city has doors into its own small, private, hidden worlds. Thank you for walking through them with me. Through them with me. Through them with me. Oh man, that's hard. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see what's going on inside of Russia, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. That one that actually breathes. That one that actually... That one that actually lives and breathes. That one that actually breathes. That one that actually lives and breathes. That one that actually lives and breathes.